I don't know why we just couldn't replicate it on game day, but we would scrim like OXG the day before our game, and we'd like 11-0 them in a 6-6 scrim, and
Jeez.
then we'd get slapped by, I don't know, like Beast Coast or something.
So the first place I want to start this because I think it's important to contextualize is kind of like joining Mirage. When I
Mm-hmm.
went back and looked at some of the VODs, I kind of got the sense that you were a relatively like surprising pick for Mirage to choose going into. I want to say it was like first stage is 2022.
Yeah,
Like
2022.
was there other NAL prospects, or was Mirage like one of the only organizations that kind of hit you up?
I mean, so when they hit me up, I was kind of coming back to comp. I kind of took a break after like that CL stage ended, like stage
Yeah,
3. And then I started to come back, and I was trying to find teams, and the only team that hit me up, in CL or PL was Mirage,
oh, okay.
and it was pretty unexpected. Um, I just got like a DM from like Christian, which is Gara, who used to be the coach,
Yeah,
basically saying like, "Hey, can you try out this week?" So it's definitely not expected. But I mean, obviously it went my favor, so.
yeah. And did you have like any expectations or anything coming into a team like Mirage? Because it's fair to say they had a pretty rough 2021 after Houghton left, and
Yeah.
you're kind of joining a team on the down on the lower part of the NAL. Was there any
Mhm.
concern about that? Of like, oh shit, this might be a poisoned chalice or anything?
No, I think I just kind of like went in with like an open mind, like obviously knowing that we're not gonna like do as well as we think we would. Like we're not gonna get top 4 like realistically. So I
Yeah,
think we were all like everyone on the team was just like kind of trying to prove ourselves as a team and like individually that like we could, you know, compete. But obviously getting 10th place twice wasn't exactly the result we wanted. But I mean, for my first time in the NAL, I definitely learned just like a shit ton about everything.
yeah,
And obviously like living in a gaming house is pretty was pretty fun experience. So I mean, no, I don't think I really had any expectations going in. Obviously, we wanted to make a major and
yeah. Of
everything.
course.
But I kind of think that it's my first NAL team. I kind of was there more for the experience and to learn just as much as I could, just be like a sponge.
Yeah. And how was that transition into tier 1 play? You mentioned you took a break, but even
Hmm.
without that being a factor, the jump from tier 2 to tier 1 is something that people always talk about as being this massive chasm. Did you find that to be the case?
I don't think it was as massive as people kind of put it out to be. I mean, I think there's definitely like a drop in skill level between T1 and T2. But unless you're like one of those players that doesn't really know what's going on in the map, like it's pretty. I think it's pretty even,
Okay.
especially with like the lower tier PL teams. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, and so talking about Mirage more specifically, and
Hmm.
now and like some of the stage stuff, I mean, it's fair to say it was not the it wasn't a good time,
Yeah.
performance
Yeah.
wise.
No.
But I remember like way back then, and even like since then, people talk about like that Mirage team. No matter who was on the roster,
Hmm.
as kind of being like these demons and scrims. Was it the
Yeah.
case that Mirage was just like a scrim team, or
And we were
what?
nasty in scrims. Like, I don't
Wow.
know. I don't know who like. I don't know why we just couldn't replicate it on game day, but we would scrim like OXG the day before our game, and we'd like 11-0 them in a 6-6 scrim, and
Jeez.
then we'd get slapped by, I don't know, like Beast Coast or something. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. Maybe people were nervous. Um, there's definitely a few people that just got super super nervous, and there's nothing you can really do about it. It's like, well, shit. Like,
Yeah. Do
what
you
can you
think
do?
competing on LAN and in that HyperX arena kind of contributed to the pressure at all? Because I mean,
Um,
even nowadays, that's kind of an unprecedented like
yeah.
situation to compete in.
I mean, probably just because it's like you're not in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, we weren't playing in front of anybody, but it was definitely an interesting experience because obviously, like, the people you're playing against are right there. Like there's people like other teams are in like the stands waiting for their game. So I guess it's a little pressure, sure. I think it was more of like I don't know, we just couldn't replicate it, and you know, shit happens. What can you do? But I think we all had a good time.
Yeah, and I did want to talk about competing with your opponents like right there because I
Hmm.
noticed when you guys did win rounds, you got really loud about it.
Yeah,
And was Mirage like more of a vibe based team, or was that just kind of like you're shooting the shit to shoot the shit?
I definitely think we were like a vibe team, especially like stage one. Mirage, I think we were all like, if our vibes were down, like we were gonna lose the map. And
Okay.
I think that's, and then obviously stage one we had to play with our coach for like 3/4 of the
Yeah,
games.
yeah,
Um, I mean, so it's just kind of just like a bunch of unlucky stuff because obviously stage one we had to play with the coach because Razor had to go home.
yep.
And then stage two we all had COVID the whole stage. Like two of us would get it one week and then two of us would get it the next
Oh,
week. So we
jeez.
never actually like, got out of the house that whole stage. We were all just like sick for like a month and a half straight. So
Oh
it
my
was
god.
definitely pretty miserable, but
Yeah.
we tried our hardest.
I want to talk a little bit about some of your teammates here because you've played with a lot of interesting characters.
Mhm.
I think Nyx is the big one, but we'll get to him in stage
Mhm.
two because that's when he comes in. I want to talk
Yeah.
about Tommy first because
Mhm.
Tomas, I feel like, well, cards on the table. I've always had a soft spot for Tommy because I just liked
Yeah.
him ever since the Accelerate days. But coming into this team, he was like filling that IGL role. Like, what was he like as a in-game leader and as a teammate?
Oh, I love Tommy. I think Tommy was probably one of the best teammates I had on Mirage. I mean, just because he's just so fun to be around. Like he's always like a viber. He's always listening to music. Like on game days, he'd like walk around dancing in the house before he left. Like he's just like a vibe guy.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, he was definitely one of my favorites that I've ever played with on Mirage. And he was kind of like the person that I think from what he said, I don't know if it's true, but he had like the deciding vote on who was gonna make the team, and he picked me.
Ah.
Like apparently, so I mean, I can't, I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
fault
Yeah.
that. So, but no, I miss Tom. He's a nice guy. He's just so fun to be around, just all the time.
Yeah. And then I also want to talk about Benji because I feel like
Mhm.
he had an interesting journey on Mirage, like from the
Mhm.
start to like when he left the team or was
Yeah.
dropped, whatever ended up happening, uh, towards the tail end of 2022. Like between stage one and stage two of 2022 is when we started seeing Benji move off those like entry roles and more onto that
Mhm.
line and more onto that flex support.
Yeah.
Was that like an intentional change, or was that because you brought on like Kento and Nyx and like that was just to make the roles work out?
I think yeah, probably to definitely make the roles. I don't know about the roles work out. I think we were all pretty like, um, I don't know what the word would be. Like we
Flexible.
could, yeah, like we're all pretty flexible. I think he just gravitated towards that role because he was like the best one at it on the team.
Okay.
Um, and like he really enjoyed it, and I think it took a lot of pressure off him to like kind of be that entry player when we had Melted and Kento,
Yeah.
who are definitely more aggressive than Ben. So I think I think he had a great stage too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I think he definitely liked those roles. So.
Yeah. And I also want to talk about Guerra as a coach because
Mhm.
he's always been like fascinating to me because when he became the head coach of Mirage, he made that video talking about like, and he with the original Mirage
Mhm.
team, he was like, support players are actually nasty. I'm gonna prove it. Like, here's Hot
Yeah.
and Dream, and all these guys. I was scouting out Young, but he's done. And he
Yeah.
made a whole video. He like rationalized his thoughts in public, which is something that we rarely get in esports.
100%. Yeah.
What was it like working with this guy? And like, what did you think about his coaching philosophy?
I mean, I think Guerra was you don't nowadays in Siege, especially in T2, you don't really have much coaches unless like you're on like an org or something. So he's probably like my first, I guess, real coach.
Okay.
And I mean, he like, he was great. Like he would help me after scrims, whatever. Like he was just like a good leader, and he knew. Um, he said he'd been scouting me like before. That he was even on Mirage.
Wow.
Yeah, for Dream spot. But obviously they had Dream.
Yeah.
And so he said he'd been scouting me for that long, which was kind of cool. And then obviously for the 2 stages I was there, he's super helpful in like strategy wise and everything like that. And especially like kind of like in the stage 2 off season, like right before I got dropped. Um, he was kind of teaching me how to IGL, and I was really enjoying it. We were having like really good scrims with me IGLing.
Okay.
And then obviously what happened, but
Yeah.
I miss Garrett. I wish he still coached. I think he's the player manager for DC now. I'm not sure. So I
Sounds
guess
about right. I
he's
think
still
he,
around.
yeah,
So
he's still a
which
part
is
of the
good.
scene, which
Yeah.
always good to see. Okay, and the last things I want to talk about with Mirage and just kind of around the team is kind of
Hmm.
when you're competing in one of these teams that's like struggling. You've got all these good pieces because I think it's fair to say like you look at the individual pieces on Mirage, like yourself included, and you go, no, on paper, like we should have something that's just
Yeah.
working a little bit better. Like I look at Tommy, I
Hmm.
look at you, I look at Nyx, Melted, Kento, and like individually they all worked. For whatever reason, it didn't work on Mirage. How do you
Hmm.
keep the vibes up when things are just not going to plan, but just kind of really hitting the shitter?
I mean, I think that just comes with like experience. Like, I mean, if you don't keep the vibes up when, I mean, obviously we had a terrible stage 1, and we knew going into stage 2 we had to be better than that. I definitely think stage 2 we were better.
Yeah,
I think most games we lost like 7-5, 7-5, 7-5.
yeah. There were a lot
Um,
of closer, much
yeah.
closer
So
matches.
I definitely think even though we got 10th in stage 2, I think we were all like super proud of how like different we played under Nyx like IGLing us. And then obviously like, team shit happens. There's a lot of like personality clashes that you can't really account for before picking up people. So,
Yeah.
but I think especially during those times where there's like personality clashes like mid-season, and you still have like half the stage to go. It's like you just have to honestly just like take it on the shoulder. Like whatever happens, happens. Like you just got to go out there and like prove kind of like how good you are, I guess, as a team. Just prove that.
Yeah, and out of curiosity, did you get any offers or any interest from other NAL teams or teams from any region after stage 2, or was it kind of
No,
like, well, back to
no.
the T2 grind?
Yeah, I mean back to the TG grind. Also, just because I got dropped at a really bad time. It was like 2 days before the roster lock.
Oh,
So I kind of got screwed over, which kind of sucked.
yeah,
Because those were like my teammates and my I guess you could I guess friends. I don't really call teammates friends because it's like a job, but
yeah.
it definitely sucks feeling like you're getting screwed over. Drop 2 days for the stage. Pack up your shit in less than 12 hours and get out.
Ugh.
So I think after I got dropped, I knew I wanted to take a break, just kind of spend time with family.
Yeah,
And then obviously, but that itch to compete, it always comes
it always
crumbling
comes
back
back. Yeah,
slowly. Yeah, slowly comes back, creeps up on you.
yeah. I played one emergent. I was an emergency sub for for a pug stack just to
Oh
like get a
yeah.
warm up scrim for a team, and I was like, shit, hold on. I ate
Ah,
dirt this match, but I kind of want to play some
yeah.
more comp. And it's just like it
It's
never
just a
leaves
good
you.
feeling. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just a good feeling.
yeah. And so now you're not back at tier 1 yet, but you're
Mhm.
competing again. You're with Elevate
Mhm.
Academy with JJ, and you're also competing in some women's leagues.
Yep.
What's it like competing back at this level again and kind of being back in the trenches, as it were? Because boy, they are trenches with this
Yeah.
off season.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like I've kind of taken a step back, but I mean, I feel like that's esports. Like,
Yeah,
there's gonna be downs, there's gonna be ups, and especially with like SI having no like quals anymore, like it's just the 20 best teams. I think the off season will definitely be interesting. We'll see. Hopefully, we get some offers. Who knows?
yeah,
But I mean, it's obviously NA's. I think NA is probably at its most competitive it's ever been right now.
yeah.
Um, Especially with the new formats and everything like that. I know. I mean, Oxygen didn't make invite, which was unheard of. Um, so there's a lot of competitive stuff recently. You just gotta show that you're the best.
Yeah. And this is more a role based question, but I
Hmm.
know for a lot of more front facing roles, like entry, second entry, or even a flex player, it can be pretty easy to like tell when they're doing a good or bad job because it's just like, well, did they get the entry? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Like, did they get the
Hmm.
cutoff kill? yes, no. If yes, doing your job. If no, not doing your job. As a hard support, how do you like ensure that your
Measure.
value and your like impact in the game is like being seen by other people and by other teams who might potentially be
Mhm.
interested in you, especially when your own team might be struggling on all other fronts? Like, how do you show that impact?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just gotta, just gotta do your job as like a support. Like, obviously, drone, get your entries into positions to get kills. Um, and I don't, not really show off, but like, I think everyone in Siege knows how each role works and what each role brings. So I don't think you really have to like show off as a support player.
Yeah.
Especially like PL teams. Like PL teams will know if you're a good support player or not, without you showing off. So I think, I mean, just doing your job the best you can, getting the drones in front of the entries. If you miss drone someone, your entries die. Like that's on you.
Yeah.
So I just think all those things, seeing gaps, calling executes, just like all that stuff kind of equates to, are you doing your job like on that role?
Okay. Yeah. And now I want to transition to more talking about the women's scene because
Mm-hmm.
you're one of the handful of women who's competed in Siege
Mm-hmm.
professionally. What was the experience like as a woman? Because it's very, I don't want to say unique, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
very rare.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't. I mean, I've never been in Pro League before, so I wouldn't know what it would feel like. But I mean, it felt, I was getting treated the same exact as everyone else. Like I didn't think that people were holding me to a higher expectation because I'm a female.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I think it was pretty equal across all boards. Obviously, like me being, I think the second female in NA behind Goddess to compete
Yeah.
in Pro League, was a really cool experience. And I think it's hopefully more women will like follow that like the path that me and Goddess have kind of like laid down.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but
I noticed that in one of the interviews that you did for the NAL
mhm,
during your time on Mirage, you mentioned that Goddess was an inspiration to you and
mhm.
kind of like helped inspire you to kind of compete at the tier one level. What kind of influence and like what kind of what kind of influence did Goddess kind of provide for you on your path to pro?
Mhm. I mean, when I first started playing Siege, I think back in Velvet Shell, I've always been a super competitive person. So like every game I played, I wanted just like to beat everybody at.
Yeah.
Like my siblings in COD when we were kids, or whatever. And so the same thing with Siege, but with Siege, I kind of didn't expect. I didn't know the pro scene of Siege. All I knew was like there's just a bunch of men.
Yeah.
And then I saw Goddess get picked up. I think it was to Cloud9.
Yep.
And that was when I was like, oh, like that's sick. Like, if she can do it, I 100% could do it. And then now cut forward to like we're pretty much best friends. We room together at SI. It's kind of cool to like for the person that you kind of like looked up to is like kind of like being your friend now. And she's mentored me in so many ways, especially in Vegas. Um, I took care of her dog, so I mean,
Yeah.
we're pretty good friends.
Sweet. And then expanding more broadly to the women's scene as a whole,
Hmm.
with women's comp, is it like, as far as tiers of play go, is it, that T3, T4 level, or like, is there anything that needs to drastically happen to make it be a better, like, I guess, pipeline of talent?
Hmm. I think in NA, there's not really any women's leagues that are like producing women that could go to pro league like in LATAM.
Yeah.
And I think that's partially on, Ubisoft as well because we were supposed to have a league just like LATAM, but we never did.
Okay.
And so I think it's also just because a lot of women in NA don't want to play comp because like the toxicity. And
Mm.
especially in NA, it's pretty bad, probably the worst in any region. So I don't blame them, but there's just nowhere for women to like showcase that they wanna, become and go to that next step, especially in NA.
Yeah, so you're saying like if we had something akin to the Valorant Game Changers,
Hmm. Oh
you'd
yeah.
have a much better pipeline of like women competing who could move up to that T1 NAL level.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think if Blast actually, invested in the women's scene at NA, we definitely could be a few women who make that jump, even to CO.
Okay, sweet. And then let me just double check my notes here, but yeah, I think that's about it. Is there anything you want to mention before we close out? I know you've got things to do, so I don't want to keep you too long if
No,
I
you're good.
have nothing on the top of my head.
Not on the top of my head, not that I can think of.
Anyone you want to shout out or kind of promote before you sign off, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, shout out Elevate. They've been amazing so far. Love Justin. Appreciate them believing
Buy
in
the
us.
Elevate signature 6 skin.
Yeah, buy the Elevate skin, guys.
And the anime skins. Those ones are probably...
Yep, and the anime ones. Yep.
You got
I mean,
options.
everyone has those already, right?